shouldn't be exactly in the middle. Okay. Okay, so, well, I am Petra Cini. You met a bit my work, my playing, predominantly till now. And I would like to introduce a little bit my musical theory, the way in which I work, and the reason also that is behind this meta-musical evening. So these different ways of working that I have, and yeah, of course the collaboration that I had with Raf. So I would like to outline first the aim of what I do, which is to give a meta-reformulation of mathematical groups, a mapping from the world of mathematics to the one of music, using the sensorial concreteness of the latter. So what I mean by this is that I aim to take objects of mathematics and give them life using the world of music. So I create visual analogies of these abstract structures. And the key idea is that I carry on an analogical and perceptual analysis of the structure and the elements of mathematical groups in terms of violence and purity. Now, again, what does this mean? So I look at them with the eyes, with the lenses of violence and purity. And I look at them this way because almost 3 years ago, I had a perception that led to this idea, to this way of looking. Yeah, so the story of the idea. In the beginning of 2020, I read these two books, written both by mathematicians. The first one, Music, a Mathematical Offering, by David Benson. And the second one, by Nathan Carter, Visual Group Theory. And well, in the first one, there was a chapter focusing on group theory and music. And that led me to grow some interest into group theory because I found it very interesting. And yeah, so then I found this other book which presented, and I outlined it also in the slides, group theory from presented group elements as actions. And I think that is fundamental to say because it's really related to my way of working. I think that's fundamental. And so one of the first groups that were presented in this book was the was the group of symmetries of the triangle that Raf presented just before, in the talk before. And yeah, here you can see the Kelly graph of it. So it's called dihedral group that are generated by flips and rotations.
So we have flips.
Yes.
That's a flip.
Yeah.
And that's a rotation. And they form this together a structure of 6 things, and this is the dihedral group, and that's one you studied first.
Yes, it was one of the first that I encountered in this book, and that that led to these ideas. So my main idea was and sensation. I connected this flipping, this reflective symmetry, to violence, and rotational symmetries to purity, and. Yeah, so then I wrote to this text that you can find also on my website. And in this text, which is an introduction to my musical theory, a damage purity technique and theory of my musical practice, I outline the elements that are of main interest to my musical practice and my compositional approach in relation to form. So there's rhythm and counterpoint, which you saw in the first half. So I composed these ETUDES that are a bit rhythmical, a lot of contradictions also within a lot of contrast in them. And counterpoint, I played the art of fugue more than that. I mean, that's quite a lot of counterpoint. And then forms are created as works within groups analyzed in terms of valence and purity. But one thing that I really want to convey is that for me, this is like a method, a way of living, a way of experiencing reality. And what I mean by that is that, to me, it's really about forging a mind that can experience reality in different ways. And and then my works are a consequence of this process of forging, is what comes out after the forging, let's say. So on YouTube you can find these works that were related to discrete symmetry. I started writing in 2020 some ETUDES focusing on wallpaper groups, like the tiling that you saw with Escher, like for instance. And then there's the D3 generated by Gentleman and Jack. Now I think I'll just say it here because Gentleman and Jack were two of my, like, I had Petrets and I assigned to, like, Gentleman was a very soft, pure one, and Jack was a bit peculiar. So anyway, that makes me smile. Yes. But then, so up until I had worked with discrete symmetry, with these groups that I could handle, let's say. But then I wanted to go from discrete to continuous. And of course, I mean, I wondered, like, what would happen if I were to apply my compositional ideas to continuous groups, and in particular to Lie groups. And to develop these ideas in the context of continuous symmetry, I needed help. Like, the expertise of someone that truly understood Lie groups, what they're about. More than me for sure. That's... and so why, and this I'm going to say it again because I think it's important, is that the focus is on musically representing mathematical objects, on giving them a life to their meaning and to the sensation that can be found in them. So it's not about their direct application or translation. And so in order to do this, a true understanding of the mathematical structures in question is necessary. It's so just to say, it's not like you take a function and then you just, I mean, I don't want to shade anyone. But let's say it's about meaning. So that's why I contacted Eric Opdam with the support of the conservatory and the head of the Department of Mathematics. Found it somehow interesting. And then that's how then we met with Raf.
So maybe I'll say a few words about myself. So I'm Raf Bocklandt, and I'm a mathematician at the University of Amsterdam, and I specialize in algebra and geometry, but I also like to do outreach, so explaining mathematics to the general public. I find this really fun to do, and thinking about how you could explain an abstract concept like a Lie group to a general audience is something that I really like to think about. And so I've also, a couple of years ago, I've given a talk at the Universiteit van Nederland, which is an organization that has these YouTube videos where professors explain a concept, and so I thought about geometry in this thing, and so I'm really interested in outreach, and I also interested in the visualization of abstract things. So from my background, so my father is a sculptor, and one of the things is he was also interested in mathematics, and we discussed a lot of how to bring sculpting abstract mathematical things into sculpture and things like that. So I found this really interesting. But I don't know that much about music myself, as we're not a very musical family, but I'm always very up to broadening my horizons, and I'm up to changing my perspective. And so when Petra came in, I thought, well, it sounds like a fun thing to do. And so she came to my office, and then we started talking about mathematics and Lie groups, and it was a really very interesting experience because she's not a mathematician, so she doesn't have the background in mathematics, but she was really eager to get deep into the details, but in a completely different way than I have with mathematics students, because she approaches things from a very other perspective. So we would stand in front of the board and doing mathematics like I'm used to do, but then she would ask me very different questions and make me think about the stuff differently, and that was what I found very intriguing and interesting. Yes.
Ah, thank you. I mean, that's nice, of course.
Should we?
Yes. So now, what I define a musical representation of the Lie group SO3 is the SO3 etudes, so the works that you listen to. So it's a musical representation of the Lie group SO3 generated by analyzing its structure and elements in terms of valence and purity. Now, to get, a bit of a practical understanding of what was the way of working, I decided to show some excerpts. So now I should connect it to the...
So maybe we can say, we decided, because Lie theory is a very big subject.
I almost got...
Sorry, yes.
So that was the reaction.
So we decided to focus on one Lie group in particular, and that's SO3.
Yes.
And that's where these SO3 etudes come from. And so we just try to, discuss about, really go into detail of the structure of SO3 and how...
and as you showed in your talk, we focused on the Lie algebra. So the first etude deals with the Lie algebra. Then we have the exponential map connecting the Lie algebra to the Lie group, and then the walk within the Lie group.
Yeah, so the idea was, when we said that Lie went deep into we used this magnifying glass. That's the first thing we did. And then we went back from, we zoomed out with the exponential map to get the whole group again. Yep. And then the last part is we looked at the different generators in the group. So. And so we are going to, Petra is going to give a few excerpts and then give some comments with it. I will do that.
Yeah. Okay, so okay, just give me 1 second. Okay. I have to just change the file. Okay. Okay, yes. So the first excerpt that I will play again is from the first etude, and here we have the presentation of the 3 dimensions of the Lie algebra SO3, which are realized as 3 voices. So you have, you will hear 1 voice, 2 voice, 3 voices. We have these 3 chords, and after that, there's a presentation, one after the other, of the generators of the Lie algebra SO3, which are the generators of rotation. So you will hear this theme that is very frantic, very...
Yeah, so these are very small rotations, and you have 3 of them because you have 3 directions, main directions in which you can rotate. You can rotate like this,
yes,
and like that.
Okay. No, wait, one more thing. So you see there's purity, so this the idea of smoothness. Also it with the magnifying glass, we have these very short movements, very small movements, smooth movements, and so I connected this to theory, so that you to purity, so that you connect to all of the things that I said before. Otherwise, okay. I mean, I have a loud voice, so usually, but they told me that it's better if I speak in the mic for the recording, so okay. So yeah, the upper voice, the middle voice, and the lower voice. You could hear this frantic movement. And then, yes. Oh yeah, this was actually, yeah.
So yeah, so we've included the picture with, well, the three voices correspond to the three basic rotations, and they can be used to make any other one. Okay.
Yeah.
So then.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I said the questions we do afterwards. No?
Yeah, we do questions after. Yeah.
Yes, so the second excerpt focuses on the exponential map.
Yeah, so the exponential map is to go back to the big rotations, and that's what in Petra's musical theory is from purity, the small things, to violence, the big things. So you're going to compose very small things together, and then you end up with something big.
Yes, like it's like also there's the I think that let us say that there's this idea of using the vector fields having these small like little steps, and then we arrive at a point in the Lie group, and we're jumping onto the point. So you have you will hear this voice that almost announces that we have arrived finally, and then there is a big dish, and that is the jumping that occurs, and we arrive at the point. I mean, I love that part too. Yes, so the last excerpt that we want to show is about the walk within the group SO3. So here we go back to smoothness, to purity. We have, again, actions. So the elements of the
so
group.
one of the things we do is a bit representing, the group consists of rotations, but on the other hand we have music. Well, how do you represent rotations into music? And that's actually, we thought about looking at the score, and if you do the rotations to the score, you can...
like you're seeing from an outside perspective. Let's say you're looking at the space.
So you have to imagine that, we're going to rotate the score and then try to see what happens to the music. So for instance, if we rotate like this, then one bar comes in front and the other one retreats, and so there's a change in dynamics. You represent this by a change in dynamics.
Yes, yeah.
And then if we do like this, then the notes, the closer notes get compressed, and the notes that recede, they get
so that it becomes accelerandos, the
accelerandos,
so faster and
there's
slower.
There's a change in velocity.
Yes.
And then the final thing is, well, if you move like this, then you can imagine that the pitch goes up because the notes rise. And so it was kind of a fun way to get these rotations
Yeah, and
into the musical score.
Yeah, and this is the musical material that you hear. No, it always comes back a bit modified. So that's that's the main material that we're looking at. And one thing that I'd like to say is that in the material of the rotation, I used actually the douche that was present in these points when you reach the point, and I just enlarged it so that we have rotations that like points that become actions. They're seen as actions, and I used the longer the rotation, let's say, the more it takes, the longer I extended the material that was in the point, let's say the douche. So you'll hear that always in the background. So now I will play again just the beginning. So you will hear a rotation of 30 degrees around the x-axis, and then we'll go back to the material, then another rotation around of 30 degrees around the y-axis, and then, of course, material, then rotation around the z-axis of 60 degrees, and then we go back to the material, and we see what happens. Okay, so...
Yeah, so we end with a slide of if you're interested in some further work. Petra has a YouTube channel where you can see her playing, and the website. And if you want to see her work, damage purity on the discrete groups, you can also go to that thing. So I included a link to my talk at the Universiteit van Nederland, if you're interested. And I also put up my website of the KDVI and my personal website. So they can find them in the booklet if you're interested.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And if you have questions, you can meet us at the bar. We'll be very welcome to see what you think. If you have anything. Okay, thank you.